A large number of newly wounded have arrived. A second bed was placed in my room for a badly wounded staff sergeant. He hails from the area around Caen and is still in shock, making conversation impossible, even though I am very interested in that area since my unit was stationed in Caen until May 1944. The doctor has had a very serious demeanour for days, and after his visit today, a transport slip now hangs on my chart. He bid me farewell with the words, "We must make room, Sergeant. Keep your ears stiff. You are going to Strasbourg." "I wish I were able to be transported," my neighbour finally speaks. "I would feel much better in Strasbourg. Everything humanly possible is being done for you here. You will not find a better doctor in Strasbourg, and the food couldn't be better than here," I replied. "It's not about that," he says earnestly. "I want to get out of France. One of these days there will be no more room for us here. You must stay calm and not worry yourself, comrade. One sees only darkness in the first few days and thinks it won't get better. But things change quickly. In a week you'll be dreaming of your first furlough. By the way, before I forget, a couple of Air Force girls will come to this room in a few days and wonder why I am not here. Please give them my regards. They will thank you with a very nice cake." I try to encourage him and organize everything in preparation for my transfer. After dinner, I stand in my freshly washed uniform beside the staff sergeant's bed, holding his hand in mine. "Don't lose courage," I say in parting. "They will put you back together, and life will continue even if we on the front fail. Goodbye, and thank you for your kindness. Perhaps later we can celebrate with my pension," he replies with a brave smile, lifting his healthier hand in salute. 30 minutes later, I sit in a bus that slowly takes us to the North train station. The sun burns hot on the Parisian asphalt, while girls in fragrant dresses promenade along the pavement, their eyes hidden behind sunglasses, glancing at the gentlemen who sit in front of the restaurants enjoying cool drinks. But we stand once again on the edge of life, and without a word of protest allow ourselves to be taken out of this beautiful city into another, where they will heal our shattered bones so that we can be thrown back into the war. "Get out," a medic orders us after the bus arrives at the train station. Twisting and moaning, the suffering people leave the upholstered seats and make their way through the nearly empty station to the platform where a Red Cross train awaits to depart. Faster than one would expect from soldiers equipped with canes and crutches, we disappear into the coaches. People are always driven by their desires. This time it's the rush to get a window seat. Where are they taking us now? A Saxon turns from the window and looks around. "To the moon, where they'll shoot you if you don't sit down," a Swabian retorts sharply. "Hold your gifts, cigarettes, chocolate and candies," someone shouts from the window, interrupting the beginning skirmish. "Come here with the stuff. 12 men are in this compartment." The Saxon turns to more important matters, sticking his head out the window so as not to miss out. His efforts are rewarded. Just as proud as Santa Claus, he distributes the items he has obtained, not forgetting himself. But not long after, complaints arise. "When do you think they will leave?" the eternally dissatisfied grumble. "The moment the man with the red hat raises his green sign," a joker responds accurately, eliciting laughter. Exactly at 9 p.m., the train rolls out of the station and into the encroaching night. As dawn arrives, we stop at the Fontainebleau train station. Damn it, this is not the direct route to Strasbourg, I think to myself. But then I comfort myself with the immediate thought that apparently a bridge across the Marne has been destroyed, necessitating a detour. Under normal circumstances, we should at least be in Epernay, if not Chalons-on-the-Marne. But all the unrest is useless. The train stands, as if it had grown in Fontainebleau, on a rusty sidetrack, showing no sign of moving on to where the thoughts of its passengers have been for hours. Strasbourg. How much I look forward to this city, to which I am tied by so many dear memories. I will immediately send a telegram to my wife so that she can join me. While I allow myself the anticipated joy of our reunion, the train reaches the Yonne, a tributary of the Seine, and every minute brings us closer to our destination. Suddenly my thoughts are interrupted. The train stands at Auxerre and does not follow the direction toward Dijon, Mulhouse, Strasbourg as I had imagined. Along the row of cars, medics of the Waffen-SS appear. "Get out!" the command roars. Dreadful curses fly through the compartments, but they do no good. We are soldiers and must obey. "Such a damn dirty situation," a joker bellows. "So close to the latrine, yet to soil one's pants." And once again, the long-suffering men are laughing. The soldiers' humour helps to overcome almost everything. A little later, we sit in buses and ride into a summer-calm little city. SS Hospital Auxerre stands over the entrance to a park, in whose rear a long, stretching building can be seen. "Here we are, then?" I nod to a comrade who sat next to me during the train ride, and who now looks very serious. "Endure it with humour. It will be easier for you," I advise him as he appears now to be indifferent. "What are we to do among the SS?" he asks spitefully. "A hospital is a hospital, regardless of the insignia the people wear on their uniforms." I shrug my shoulders and walk into the building. A considerable time later, I lie in blue and white striped pyjamas in the corner of a large room on a double-decker bed, and I don't know whether I should be full of anger or wonder. The hospital is filled to the brim. Despite the overcrowding, the noon meal consists of mutton and macaroni, and as a special gesture of hospitality, an apple for dessert. The food, to the comfort of all of us, is abundant and well prepared. With a full stomach, but with mixed feelings, I fall asleep in the strange surroundings with their constant disturbance. Bathed in sweat, I rise up when the whistle sounds for dinner and go to wash myself. The meal is set out on a long table. The dominating heat brings forth all kinds of undefinable odours, and as a consequence, restricts the appetite considerably. After dinner, I find a book in the library, From the Tsar's Eagle to the Red Flag, which I put under my arm and find a quiet place outside in order to read until bedtime. The newly arrived wounded are given a thorough examination today. A medic stands with a list at the entrance to the hall and calls out the names of the wounded who are to present themselves to the doctor. The first returnees report that a rough tone prevails here. At 10:30 a.m., I sit in front of the doctor with my bandage removed while he reads my papers with interest. "You are Sergeant Horner, and were wounded in the area around La Haye-du-Puits?" he asks me as he passes the papers to a nurse. "Release him for assignment in about 3 weeks." He turns to a clerk and gives instructions to bandage me again. Condescendingly, he extends his hand to me, and his glance forces me to look at him. "Nearly half the people in this transport are nearly healed. Do you have an explanation for that?" "The people were probably in good hands," I answer with a double meaning. "There are other reasons for it, if you consider it carefully." He dismisses my ironic answer. "Certainly," I confirm the truth of his statement. "In recent days, many wounded have arrived in Paris, forcing the authorities to transfer those who could be moved." "All right, you may go. Next, please." What strange people are here, I think to myself, as a medic accompanies me to my bed. In the room, there is an oppressive atmosphere. I have barely settled in when I overhear a soldier speaking to one of the SS medics. "Yes, sir," he says. "Enough with that nonsense." Suddenly I lose my composure and stride toward the sergeant, as if driven by an inner force. "I am Sergeant Horner," I hiss, catching him off guard, "and I want to know why you're using that tone of voice. This comrade has stood bravely, and if you're eager to take risks like him, then perhaps you should visit where he was stationed 2 weeks ago. The front awaits loudmouths like you." Gradually I regain my composure. With an icy stare, I watch the man across from me turn red with anger, but he manages to control himself, turns and leaves. The room is so silent at that moment you could hear a pin drop. Satisfied, I return to my spot, surprised by the fuss my action has caused. "You certainly shut him up," remarks a soldier in the neighbouring bed. "Hopefully it will make a difference. I can't stand to see them trying to dominate us," I say, relieved, and climb back into my bed. "He will surely report you," the man worries. "Let him. I can handle myself," I respond indifferently. "Can you imagine how they'll behave if we win the war?" he asks, his forehead creased with dark premonitions. "We're not at that point yet, so I don't need to worry about it. If it comes to that, we're all still here," I remark as lunch is brought in. For now, enjoy the meal. I redirect him from the future to the present, and with mild distaste consider the rubbery macaroni in the grey broth. Is there nothing else to eat here besides these disgusting ringworms? Slowly, the confidence of the men in the room begins to awaken. They might as well rub this filthy mutton into their hair, someone comments. The courageous soldiers resume their well-practiced grumbling, although, as always, the most vocal are quick to go for seconds. Mealtime is flavoured with ongoing humorous banter, until everyone has eaten their fill and settled into their beds to fall asleep. You must report at 4 p.m. A medic wakes me with a malicious grin. Didn't I tell you so? My neighbour says to me, flustered. Yes, you really are a prophet, I reassure him and glance at my watch. For heaven's sake, they don't give one much time. I get out of bed and button up my field blouse. You're right, comrade. Show him your medals so he immediately knows who he's dealing with. He looks at my decorations. Exactly at 4 p.m, I stand before the head doctor on one leg, supported by my cane. He is the same one who examined me. In response to my greeting, he indolently lifts his hand and asks me to sit down. You had a dispute this morning with Vogel? He begins the inquiry. Yes, sir, doctor, I answer, immediately noticing his annoyance at me for not addressing him by his SS rank, a title with which I am not familiar. What were the circumstances? He inquires, and I recount the entire incident. Why did you get involved? He asks next. Because I was incensed to see a medic, far from the front, mistreating the wounded. I respond with my honest and truthful answer. Everyone must do their duty wherever they are assigned, he responds sharply. I share that opinion, but the tone is important, and I want to clarify that none of us harbour any ill will against the SS. On the contrary, we recognise how bravely this division has fought, I say, clearing up any potential misunderstanding. Will you apologise to Vogel? He asks, his words hanging in the room like a heavy cloud. Blood pounds dully in my temples as my heart races to find a difficult response. But then a solution appears. If Vogel apologises to the wounded man, then I am more than ready to do the same, I am surprised to hear myself say. That's fine, the doctor says, sitting on the edge of his desk, satisfied. You can go. I will speak with him. Did you give him a proper response? A curious group gathers around my bed as I return. It was a conversation among men, nothing more, I say, dampening their rebellious spirits, and they disperse, disappointed. For dinner, we once again have rubbery macaroni, goulash, and salad. We have settled into our new environment. Our relationship with the hospital personnel improves. Nearly every day, some of the men are released and sent back to the front. Corporal Vogel and I have apologised to one another in the presence of the doctor, and everything seems to be following its normal course. This afternoon, a troupe of artists brings a diversion to the stale hospital activities. The inmates of the hospital, including the German and French personnel, assemble in the park where long rows of stools and benches have been placed. The artists have arrived, and the magic begins. A good announcer immediately establishes contact with the audience with his jokes. Before the enthusiastic applause has ended, he introduces an older singer who tries with all means at her disposal to appear young. But she is an excellent singer, and through her songs she manages to break the remaining ice that surrounded a certain stuffy element among us. She is followed by 2 tap dancers, then 2 young ladies who coax magic tones from their saxophones, earning the enthusiasm of the entire audience. After the usual smoking break, a juggler showcases his talents. Then 4 pretty girls and 2 gentlemen with musical instruments perform The Black Panther, so energetically that even the wounded with crutches stand up and begin to sway with the rhythm. Just as the last echoes of applause fade, the artists launch into Barcelona, accompanied by immense applause. Time and again, the 6 artists must return to the makeshift stage, and time and again the applause roars until even the most stubborn realize that this kind of effort leaves the performers exhausted. The program concludes with the wonderful song about the brave little soldier's wife. We return to bed with totally softened hearts. A day worth living comes to an end. Today I have my first pass to leave the hospital. Although my foot hurts terribly when I walk, I don't care. I must finally see something different than double bunk beds and men in blue and white striped pyjamas. First of all, I think about going into the city to have something respectable to eat. The rubber macaroni nearly gags me. I report in at the guardhouse, where a staff sergeant offers me his help to go into town. We dawdle along a path toward the town in the scorching heat. "How do you like the hospital, comrade?" My companion begins the conversation. I had really expected more comfort from the SS, I express my opinion. "It is indeed a bad state," he agrees with me. "It seems that you are from southern Germany, as I can tell by your dialect," he observes. "I am from Austria. Briller is my name, Robert Briller from Vorarlberg." "It's a pleasure," I respond, happy with his open manner. "Horner, Helmut," I introduce myself. "Pleased to meet you," he says, extending his glove-covered hand. "Were you fighting against the Tommies or on the Cotentin Peninsula?" he asks as we continue to walk. "I come from the area around Port Bail, Saint-Sauveur, La Haye-du-Puy." I explain to him where I saw action. "My God, I come from that area as well. Now tell me that you belong to the 77th Division." I am prepared for any surprise. "The devil can take me if that's not true," he responds, overjoyed. "Here, you can look in my Soldbuch." He will prove it to me. "Here, Regiment 1049. He points to a page in his well-used Soldbuch. "I believe you," I reassure him. "I belong to the 1050th Regiment." Such a coincidence. We rejoice together. "We must drink to that." He begins to quicken the pace. "Slow down, otherwise you will already be full before I arrive," I joke, holding on to his sleeve. 20 minutes later, we reach the city, and 2 German railroaders show us where we can eat. A pleasant coolness and soft dimness pull us into the guest room. It is exactly 3 p.m. as the innkeeper, an older woman, comes to our table. "Bonjour, messieurs," she greets us, friendly, and looks in anticipation from one to the other. "Avez-vous une bouteille de vin rouge?" Brillet orders a bottle of red wine, just like a native Frenchman. "Don't we want to drink a beer first?" I suggest, and he orders 2 beers from the madame. "S'il vous plaît, monsieur," the madame whispers as she brings the drinks to the table. "Merci, madame." Brillet thanks her politely and extends his glass to mine. "To the 77th. And to our meeting each other." He laughs happily and pours the entire glass down his throat. "Order something to eat. That's why I came into the city, and you appear to speak perfect French," I ask Briller. "Nonsense. I only know the few words that one needs for food and drink," he confesses, but he immediately waves to the madame, and after she arrives, orders 2 beefsteaks, French fries and salad. While the rattle of pots and pans can be heard in the kitchen, Briller tells me a story about a French bordello, which at the moment is of little interest to me, as I lust after the beefsteaks whose smell penetrates the air. After an unbelievably long time of 20 minutes, everything we ordered stands before us on the table. "Finally, once again, something respectable between the teeth," Briller exclaims. "Keep quiet and keep your fork busy," I respond, rejecting all conversation in order to completely enjoy the wonderfully prepared dinner. But too quickly, the contents of the plate merge together without any observable resistance in the stomach. As my eyes take in more porcelain than food on the plate, I become anxious and wave to the madame to come to the table. "Avez-vous des omelettes flambées?" I ask her. "Oui." She beams at me joyfully at the business I have brought and hustles into the kitchen to prepare scrambled eggs sprinkled with schnapps. "What do you think this fun will cost us?" I bring up the dark side of our pleasure. "Today it doesn't matter at all," he shrugs his shoulders. The schnapps burns bluish on the scrambled eggs. Ceremoniously, the madame holds a snow-white napkin ready. Quickly she covers it up and smothers the flame. "Hopefully the old one did not pour alcohol all over it," Briller seems to mumble to himself. "No alcohol," the madame protests indignantly. "Good schnapps." "Merci, madame." I calm her and reach once again for my utensils. Briller shovels his omelettes à la flambée behind his powerful set of teeth, while the matron stares at him from behind the counter, apparently offended. "You made her angry," I whisper to him, and he waves for the old dame to come to the table. Une bouteille de vin rouge, s'il vous plaît, madame, he says with the most charming laugh, and hands the empty bottle to her across the table. Grand filou, she laughs back and waddles to the counter. So, I am happy she seems satisfied again. Shit, says Briller, and wipes his mouth with his handkerchief. That's why she cheated us, or do you really believe the steaks are from beef? Cut it out, I respond. The old one has really gone to a lot of trouble for us. For sure, he says, emptying his glass. But perhaps you are a little naive. The beefsteaks are from an old gelding. What are you saying? I ask him indignantly. But with the most contented manner in the world, Briller picks his teeth with a broken match, while leaning back fully satisfied. You're wearing riding pants. You must know what a gelding is? He asks in return. Naturally I know, but you can't be serious that they would put horseflesh in front of us? I respond, slightly irritated. My God, don't get yourself upset. He passes me his pack of cigarettes. This is not your first time in France. They eat horse meat and there's nothing you can do about it, and while we happen to be here, we eat it with them. What is wrong with that? I ask. And you knew that? I wonder, still processing the information. Of course, he responds. Why didn't it taste good to you? Around 7 p.m. we ask for the bill. The madame has everything ready and names an astronomically high number. She carefully picks up the bills and goes to the bar, where, without being asked, she pours 3 double glasses of cognac. Returning to our table, she sets down the silver tray, takes a glass in hand, and nods encouragingly to us. To your health, madame. We toast and the empty glasses clatter softly on the tray. The friendly madame accompanies us to the door. Happy and well satisfied, we both stand on the street, basking in the golden rays of the setting sun. The old one does know how to live. You have to give her that, I say, reconciled, and limp with effort out of the alley. In the vicinity of the hospital, we enter a little establishment from which music can be heard on the street. The inn is completely filled with soldiers from the hospital, and the atmosphere matches. I am greeted heartily by a number of soldiers in the room, and the word spreads. He is the soldier that told off the SS man and... Briller looks at me in astonishment. Did you cause any trouble in the store? He asks, as a small space is made available to us in a corner. I heard about it, he adds, and I can only agree with you. Those brothers have been a stench to me for a long time. A bottle of white Bordeaux, I order from the well-endowed waitress when she reaches our table. But we have eaten and drunk too much to have any taste for the lukewarm wine. Furthermore, we realize that we have stumbled into a camouflaged brothel. When we try to pay, the young lady explains in good German that the bill has been taken care of. If you want to come on a more peaceful day, she says with a tempting wink as we stumble out of the place. Today I leave the hospital Auxerre with Briller. With orders in our pockets to go to Paris for assignment to the front, we report to the local commander to collect our pay and pick up some better clothes. Briller arranged to leave earlier than necessary so we could stay together. It is 6:20 p.m. when we catch a German transport going to Troyes. The driver is happy to have company since the area he must drive through is rumoured to be infested with partisans. He carries a rifle and several hand grenades under the seat. We travel along the road to Sens, reaching it without any trouble. Our cautious driver, still fearful of partisans, declines our friendly invitation to share a round of schnapps with us, and continues toward Troyes after we disembark and wish him a safe journey. Relieved to have Sens behind us, we search for the area commander, who directs us to a hotel for the night, accommodating French refugees from Normandy. Briller and I share a spacious, well-furnished room with a bath. The hotel is bustling with activity. Despite their uprooted lives, the soldiers and refugees seek to enjoy every available pleasure, even as morals and good health are compromised. I turn down my companion's suggestion to go downstairs with him, opting instead to wash thoroughly before heading to bed. Just as I'm falling asleep, Briller enters with a girl and asks me to go downstairs for a while. Enraged, I yell, "Do you expect me to disrupt my sleep for this nonsense?" Offended, he closes the door and leaves. I sleep undisturbed until morning. Shortly after 8 o'clock, Brilla returns to the room, looking sheepish. "Pardon me," he says. "I didn't realize you were so sensitive." "I'm not sensitive," I reply sharply. "But you can't expect to amuse yourself at my expense. By the way, have you been to the medic station yet?" I immediately sense that my tone is too harsh. He defiantly answers no, and slams the door as he exits. Feeling somewhat guilty about my outburst, I decide to shave and take a bath. An hour later, I report to the commander to receive our travel provisions and inquire about clothing and transportation. Unfortunately, they have neither. Disappointed, I return to the hotel, where I find Brilla asleep in his bed with a receipt from the medic's office on the table. "Crazy dog," I mumble to myself, shaking him awake. He glances around, disturbed. "Get up, you old bore, and eat. I've brought your provisions," I tell him, avoiding eye contact. He obediently gets up and heads to the wash basin. As he dries his hands, our eyes meet, and we both laugh, letting bygones be bygones. We enjoy a part of the excellent hard sausage, bread, butter, and Swiss cheese. Just as we finish, a corporal from the commander's office informs us that we can hitch a ride with a transport convoy to Melun. Within half an hour, we are seated in the cab of a heavily loaded truck, rolling out of Sens. The road shows plenty of signs of enemy aircraft activity, but we only have to take cover from enemy planes once. Surprisingly, there's no action from the terrorists, reinforcing my belief that all the talk about French snipers is mere fantasy. I've been in France for more than 7 months and haven't seen a single member of this so-called ghost army. Nevertheless, the driver keeps recounting stories about the cunning French partisans. We enter Melun without any issues and hope to avoid any further ghost encounters. It'd be better to seek assistance from the local commander before continuing, I suggest to Brilla, after we thank the driver and convoy leader and find ourselves on the streets of this unfamiliar city. "Let's eat something first. I'm incredibly thirsty," Brilla says, almost pleadingly. "You wouldn't feel so bad if you hadn't drunk so much last night," I retort, unable to stop myself. "Please, I only had a bottle of wine with her, then we went to bed," he defends. "It's fine, let's go to that bar on the corner," I suggest, pointing to an inviting inn. "Avez-vous une bouteille de vin blanc?" Brilla asks the attractive waitress after we settle down in the restaurant. "Don't worry, we speak German here," she replies with a loud laugh, swaying her hips as she heads to the bar. "Here you are, gentlemen." She places the wine on the table after a few minutes. "Thanks a lot. We couldn't have found a better place than here with you," I compliment her. "Don't say that. I can be pretty nasty if I don't like someone," she replies while pouring the wine into the glasses. "According to that, you must like us," Brilla interjects, boldly peering into her low-cut blouse. "My, but you notice everything," she retorts, sticking out her tongue playfully at him. "But don't let it go to your head. You are just the first guests today," she adds with a roll of her eyes and then withdraws. "Fine woman," Brilla observes, toasting to me. "Didn't you get enough last night?" I ask him, somewhat ironically. "If you must know, the doctor has prescribed these dark-haired ones for me," he replies with a sly laugh. "In that case, hurry up and take your medicine. We have to leave soon." I remind him of his duty. "We could stay here and stroll into Paris early in the morning," he suggests with a lustful glint in his eyes. "What do we want to do in this nest? We'll go as soon as we have an opportunity," I insist stubbornly. "All right, agreed. Let's finish the bottle and then head to the commander. But I tell you, in Paris we'll have so much fun the walls will shake," he declares, slamming his fist on the table. "Good, but first I want to eat something other than this hard sausage," I concede, and signal to the waitress. After we eat, Brilla convinces me for a second bottle, which isn't too hard given the wine's quality. Meanwhile, soldiers from a tank unit en route to the front have stopped at the locale. During our conversation, we learn their route goes through Paris, and there's a chance for us to join them. We immediately approach the unit's leader, a very cautious major. He scrutinizes our papers thoroughly before authorizing us to travel with them. After dark, Brilla and I sit in the vehicle of a first lieutenant on the road to Paris. The column travels without lights, navigating through blacked-out villages and small towns. A light rain has set in. Gradually, the conversation in the car fades, and a little later we fall asleep. Porte de Bercy, the first lieutenant announces, pulling us from our dreams. What's that? I ask, groggy with sleep. We are in Paris and have just passed Porte de Bercy, he repeats. So, you mean the gate to sin? I quip, trying to sound prepared for fun, but in reality I have no idea what it entails. Yes, you could call it that, the officer replies with a grin, lighting my cigarette. You must soon get out, since we have business in Avenue Victor Hugo, he adds as we speed past the street sign, Quai d'Austerlitz. Pardon me, First Lieutenant, but we don't know our way around Paris. How can we find the commander of the personnel office? I ask, feeling helpless and peering into the dark waters of the Seine. Don't worry, we'll take you to the Arc de Triomphe and show you where to go, he reassures me. Slowly, the column rolls along the Seine. So, this is Paris, Briller mumbles to himself, his eyes sweeping over the streets and the tall, sombre buildings. Are you searching for something special? Your eyes move like searchlights, I jest. I don't know. Perhaps with the name Paris I always think of girls, but I can't see any, he confesses, with a wolfish hunger in his eyes. Don't forget it's about 2 a.m. At this hour the virtuous daughters of Eve are already in their beds, I remind him, trying to temper his adventurous desires. Are you crazy? In Paris one does not sleep, especially not alone, he counters, revealing his longing. For today we've missed our opportunity. Place de la Concorde, the first lieutenant announces as we cross a bridge and enter a large square flanked by parks. Here we are. That monument is the Arc de Triomphe, the tomb of the unknown soldier, he adds, after Briller and I set foot on the Paris pavement, our gaze fixed on the imposing monument. Just follow Avenue de Friedland until you reach Boulevard Haussmann, then go along Boulevard Haussmann to Place de l'Opéra, where you'll find the commander's office. He bids us farewell. Take with you our thanks and best wishes for the front. Perhaps there we can be of help to you. We shake his hand and set out along Avenue de Friedland. Your division has been wiped out, comrades, the grey-haired sergeant at the counter of the commander's office announces, returning our sold books. What do you mean? I ask, shocked, staring at the man who so mechanically has made this dreadful disclosure. I'm sorry. I'll write you a 24-hour pass. Before it expires, you must report to the front personnel office, where you'll be assigned to a new unit, he explains calmly, reaching for the forms. Put the slip in your Soldbuch, Helmut, Briller instructs. Sadly, I lift my gaze and meet his moist eyes. Slowly, we turn to leave. Hey! The sergeant calls after us. You don't know where you're supposed to sleep. Then tell us, Briller responds, stopping. In the schoolhouse behind the opera, he replies, shaking his head disapprovingly. And now, Robert? I ask my comrade as we stand in the dark Parisian street, alone. He shrugs his shoulders and hangs his head. Life goes on, Robert. Let's find a bar and drink away our sorrows. You're right, that's the only way to bear it, he agrees. Dejected, we wander along the street until the sound of dance music from a bar reaches our ears. We enter listlessly, pushing through the smoky room crowded with drunken patrons to find a table. It's too bad we ended up in a place like this, I shout to Briller, barely audible over the din. Perhaps this is exactly what we need to forget our sorrows, he shouts back, leaning in and opening the wine list. How about a Breton muscatel? He suggests as the waiter finally approaches. The wine arrives, but before we can toast, two women boldly approach our table and without shame sit on our laps. Would you like to make love with us? They giggle, their breath reeking of sour alcohol. Reacting spontaneously, we stand up, gently setting them back on their feet. Unfazed, they snatch our filled glasses and down them in one gulp. Merci, they chirp, waving at us before flitting to another table to repeat their act with two sailors from the German Navy. Disgusted, we finish our wine and squeeze out of the dive. Only with great effort are we able to find the schoolhouse where, without delay, we lie down to sleep. So, my dear Briller, let's head to the Army Quartermaster office at the East train station to see if we can get new uniforms. I suggest to my comrade after returning from the information office. Mine is still good enough for me. Anyway, let's get down to business. We cannot squander our time in this city of sin. He laughs, ready for action, and sets his cap on his left ear. I find it simply shameful to be offered a stall like this for quarters. He comments angrily about the hard straw floor in the schoolroom. Since the metro is not operating, we are forced to travel the long distance by foot. But luck is with us. On Boulevard Haussmann, we catch a truck that takes us where we want to go. I'm going to the soldier's house and will wait there for you, I tell Brilla as I depart with the truck driver to enter the quartermaster's building. Everything is ready to be inventoried and removed. I am sorry that I can't give you anything. The old lifer behind the desk responds to my question about weapons and clothing. Damn it, anyway, I say, my patience at an end. I can't run around Paris without a weapon and a complete uniform. You shouldn't. Report promptly to the personnel office. They will assign you to a unit where you will get everything. The impertinent bully of a sergeant shows no sympathy. Apparently you've been at this shirker's post so long that you don't have any comprehension that others also want to see something of the city. I retort and slam the door shut. With indescribable rage, I go to the soldier's house where Brilla waits for me. You really outfitted yourself fine, Brilla mocks me as I sit down at the table. They are really idiots in this Babylon of sin. I allow my anger free rein. Imagine, they have everything ready to take away, and that is why they cannot give anything out. Drink it down, Helmut. They can all go chase their own tails crossways, he suggests, and hands me a glass of apple wine. That is what you say, but I can't run around here like a deserter, I scream at him, uncontrolled. They are just clerks afraid to leave the base, and you can't change that. He tries to dampen my scorn. Look at how thirsty our comrades are so early in the morning. He diverts me. They are almost all from the reinforcement units, a few just out of the stockade, and others, like us, just out of the hospital. No one questions their tomorrow or the day after. There's no use trying to swim against the stream of fate. That's why we must let ourselves be carried until destiny spits us out somewhere. It's exactly 2 p.m. as we stand at the head of a long line of waiting soldiers and present our papers to the clerks at the personnel office. The 77th Grenadier Division no longer exists, says the oldest sergeant, an expected response. What do you think you will do now? He turns to Brilla. Go home, he answers promptly. I'm sorry that's not possible, the clerk laughs. But if you don't want to join another troop, you can go to Le Bourget, where the rest of the division is being assembled to be sent to a new position in Holland. Agreed, I nudge Brilla. Of course, he agrees. We might meet a few old comrades. Okay, then I'll write your orders. The sergeant reaches for the forms. Yes? Brilla turns. This is our first time in Paris. How about a pass? Yours expires tonight, right? He asks, rubbing his chin. That's right, I chime in quickly. But we've been wearing out our feet here running after clothing and have seen practically nothing of the city. I understand, he chuckles, pleased, and stamps the extension on the pass. It's now 2:20 p.m. Be here tomorrow at the same time for your orders and transportation pass. Heil Hitler, is our response as we leave. 30 minutes later, we sit in the front yard of the personnel office, eating the March provisions we've received. Around the building swarm stragglers and pretenders. Bread-begging Frenchmen surround us, along with those selling nude photographs and fellow travellers of the German headquarters, while an oppressive heat draws sweat from every pore. Without feeling hungry, we both gulp down the dry Swiss cheese, watching the activity on the street. Suddenly, Brilla springs from his chair and hurries to the entrance of the personnel office, where he happily slaps a small infantry sergeant on the shoulder, and in turn, the sergeant enthusiastically shakes Brilla's hand. After some time, the two appear before me. Hocker, Willie, Brilla introduces the man to me. He is from my regiment and wears the Iron Cross First Class for good reason, he adds, as I firmly shake the hand of this seemingly very sympathetic blonde fellow. When were you wounded, comrade? Is my first question, trying to learn something about the fate of our unit. I was not wounded, but cut off. After the Great Offensive on July 28th, our division moved south while continuing to fight. At that time, we still held a small strip along the coast, because the Americans had pushed east and then turned south. Near Avranches, most of the remaining troops were pushed aside at Saint-Michel in the direction of Saint-Malo, while my 5 men and I joined a tank unit that was moving along the point of the front. 3 days ago, I escaped with this unit from the encirclement at Falaise Argentan, and yesterday I reached Paris. Will we stay together, Willie? Briller asks after a pause in the silence. If it's all right with the two of you, I would like it very much, he replies. That's understood. Do you have a pass? I ask. It's just about to expire, he answers, slightly depressed. Then we will get you an extension, Briller says, taking him by the arm, and I follow the two into the office. Don't let me hear any wish like this tomorrow, otherwise I will call the MPs, the sergeant warns with a grin, extending Hocker's pass after Briller makes it clear that he is from his battalion, which is reason enough for them to stay together. As happy as children, we sit after an hour in the Café Strasbourg, which Hocker seems quite familiar with. It is a large place with an orchestra, and now at 1:15 p.m. it is already full. After the second bottle of white Bordeaux, Briller has already made the acquaintance of a lady and excuses himself for an hour. Where did you dredge up this Casanova? Hocker asks after Briller has departed. In a hospital, I laugh heartily, immediately feeling the mutual sympathy that unconsciously binds us. At the front, old Briller is the most dependable of all comrades, but as soon as women step into his view, something happens to him. Hocker, knowing from experience, nods in agreement. I had to find that out myself, and I can only tell you it was no small undertaking to bring this stallion to Paris, and especially to the front personnel office. I express my continual worry about Briller. I believe something is not quite right with his wife. He never took a weekend pass as long as we were with the replacement unit, Hocker shares, echoing my own suspicions. If that's the case with him, then it's best to let him do what he wants. Otherwise we will only end up quarrelling with him. However, both of us must keep an eye on him, I suggest, pulling Hocker to my side. This is the part 3 of the Memoirs of a German soldier who was a prisoner of war. The continuation of this story will be posted soon. I kindly ask you to subscribe to this channel because your support motivates me to create more videos featuring the valuable memories of soldiers that deserve to be heard. When we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will release a special video as a token of appreciation for your support.